This is a podcast or something like that. Hi, what up? Welcome to the Verbal Journal Podcast, episode 116. And it's a public episode, so you're probably from the public, and you're like, all right, I'll give it a shot, entertain me is kind of what you might be thinking, and I hear you. Give me a little time to warm up, okay? Let's just keep it all a little bit relaxed for a second. I do this podcast every week. I do these public episodes every 3 weeks. Happy Father's Day, by the way. It's June 15th. If you are watching this, it may already be the day after Father's Day. I never really make up my mind on when to post this. Like, do I post on Sunday or on Monday? It has to do with a lot of complicated things going through my mind. The mind of a content creator is just like, it's on like this whole other level. It's hard to even explain, really. So I'm thinking about things like, what day of the week is it? You know what I mean? What time of the day is it? And those are just two examples of the things that I'll consider. Those are probably the two main ones. So welcome to a special episode, special just in general. You might notice I also have a pop filter. That's right, I have a pop filter. It's been a little while since I had a pop filter. I've had some issues with popping. I've had comments saying, hey, could you please get a pop filter? And the answer is yes. So I spent slightly more money. I think this one might have been like slightly over $10. So hopefully it lasts longer than the other one, which, if I remember correctly, actually broke before I even first put it on the mic stand. But that might be sort of a confabulation in my mind. So I'm not 100% sure on that. Have a coffee break. Feel free to have coffee if you'd like. No pressure if you don't drink coffee. We are open-minded here to all types of people. Right. So welcome back to the Verbal Journal podcast. This is the introduction. One thing I've been trying to do, this is new in the last few episodes, is I've been trying to actually introduce the episode in the introduction. I never really thought about that until recently, but I realized I could actually tell people what's going to be on the episode. So we're going to start with a few some random stuff. Then we're going to go to the horizontal integration segment where I talk about the YouTube channel, some very cool updates there. Then we'll have the headline section where we'll talk about the news of the day, split into Goodish news and Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, which is a news segment. We'll have a new thing after that, a comedy segment I'm very excited about. A little bit of Google Scholar segment. We'll have the image segment. We will have an audiovisual segment, which is the new name for the video segment. We're actually going to have a new suggestion on the name on that front. We're going to watch a funny video. And then we will have some follow-ups and get out of here, essentially. Maybe we'll see about improv. Obviously, there's the fantasy segment. I'll tell you how my fantasy baseball team's doing. We'll save that for the fantasy segment. It is hard to compartmentalize sometimes. You know what I mean? You want to just kind of jump into something. You want to just kind of spread your wings podcast-wise. But you do have to wait. That's something I've learned here. You have to wait for the proper segment. All right, so that's good. We'll try to keep doing that. One thing I just wanted to touch base on, just a little rest in peace for Brian Wilson. Just wanted to kind of pay our respects. Brian Wilson, sending out those good vibrations. Just like an absolutely epic songwriter that changed the game and changed so many people's lives. So great job, and I am digging those good vibrations. I honestly didn't really know what Brian Wilson looked like, but that is what he looked like. And thank you, Brian, for all the music. I hope you, I hope you know how much you influenced everyone. Thanks, Brian. Okay, so horizontal integration. So YouTube channel's going well. You probably know me from there, the What's Therapy Corp. Things are going quite well there. So the big thing that I've been doing, I've been talking about this on the podcast, and I maybe elsewhere, mostly just on the podcast, on this podcast, the one you're listening to, is that I have been working on, I've mentioned it in community posts and stuff, but like relationship stuff. I've been sort of like reading, writing, exploring about relationships, not just romantic, but also friendship and family relationships. So I'm just kind of interested in a few specific questions, and also just like generally seeing if I have anything to add to the conversation. So specifically, I'm looking into how we balance our needs, essentially, in some situations where we have to make self-sacrificing decisions. How do we make sure we're not too self-sacrificing? How do we balance when we compromise with when someone else compromises? Stuff like that, and how that plays into healthy relationships, sort of. But then I'm just kind of interested in anything. So what I've started related to relationships, and I'm a curious person in general. So the big sort of thing I did there, I reached out to you all, and I was like, hey, have you ever been in a relationship conflict? Do you want to share what that is? Do you want to let me know? And I'll respond to it. So I did that. And then sort of part two in the content production side of this is that I was then watching videos about relationship advice on YouTube. So that's me. I watched a video by this guy. Good advice, a lot of good advice by different people. I don't want to show you everyone, but yeah, there's some Jay Shetty. I want some of it to be surprising. There's good advice. There's like slightly less than good advice. There's Jordan Peterson and his daughter, of course. I had to include them. And then there's, this guy who wrote a book. A very famous author, TED Talk. There's like all kinds of different things. So you might notice this is six and a half hours essentially. This is probably not done. I think I'm going to add a bunch to it. I don't want to end it on Jordan Peterson. And I also just like have like 5 or 10 more relationship videos I want to watch. So there's a lot going on that front. I just uploaded it so I could kind of review it, check the audio levels and stuff like that, but it's definitely not going to be released. I'm also not going to release it on the side channel. I'm going to release it, I think, on the main channel, because I think it would be a good kind of step forward for the channel. I just uploaded it onto the side channel so you could so I could kind of just review it. And, I worry sometimes about putting things on the main channel. This person was knowledgeable. She's a psychotherapist, I believe. Jay Shetty's such a character. And then he has this guy who's just like, his whole thing was he was hit by a truck and then he didn't have to get surgery, so he can just give you life advice on like anything, I guess. And so there's all kinds of different, and I had fun with it. I'm having a good time. So that's 6+ hours of me responding to relationship advice. I think I'm going to edit it down in some way, but you know me, I like my stuff to be unwieldy and difficult to swallow, I guess is probably the best word for it. I think I might make it a little less unwieldy, a little more wieldy, but I do like that it's I like that it's this bulky thing, because to me that represents how relationship conflicts are, or relationships are complicated. And so a video about them will also be complicated, so it has to be more than 6 hours, obviously. I don't know how long it's going to be, but what I was doing this past week, I actually went in and was editing. I cut out a little stuff, and I also was fixing the audio levels. So that was a kind of a big deal to fix the audio levels, so it's like listenable and enjoyable. That took a fair amount of tedious cutting. But yeah, that's what's going on the horizontal. That's what's going on the channel. Get ready for a very long video, and tell me what you think about that. Like, are you interested in kind of seeing the channel move into more like relationship advice? Well, it's me responding to relationship advice. I'm also giving advice. I hate the word advice as a therapist. I just like, it like triggers me. But like, yeah, I mean, on a certain level, I'm giving advice. I'm also just like giving commentary on people's relationship advice. And then I'm touching base on my own sort of research that I've been looking, reading books about relationships and different things about ethics. So Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm just clicking through it now. There's so many more that I didn't even show. There's so many videos. But I'm going to do more. I'm going to watch more. And yeah, that'll be good. So look out for that and let me know what you think. And also look out for a community post soon where I ask for more relationship conflicts to respond to, but I might put that off a little bit. And if you're someone who's already sent one in and you're like, why did he not respond? Like, what is he just like? Why is my relationship conflict is in limbo? You know what I mean? It's just, just hang out a little bit. Speaking of things that I haven't done yet, rule of law stream. I'm going to do a live stream related to the rule of law because I thought it'd be fun to kind of learn together. I know a little about what rule of law means, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of decide. That's not the word I'm looking for. Investigate together, like, what does rule of law mean? So we're going to do that. We're going to do that soon. That might be this week. That actually probably won't be this week. I keep delaying it because I have other things in my life and so on. So that's good. And, look forward to that where we can, I might do it if I want to, blow off some steam or something, blow off some stream. All right. So for our next 2 segments, we're going to be talking about news, current events of the last week, but we're going to fly through them in a way you're going to, if you've listened to these public episodes before or the podcast in general, but not the last 2 private episodes, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, thank God. Well, you might say, oh my God, thank gosh, actually, but depending on your religious affiliation, but because last public episode, you might remember the episode 113, the Goodish news and the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment together lasted almost literally 1 hour. You know what I mean? I mean, it was something close to an hour. We try to not get bogged down in numbers here on the podcast. We don't think too much about numbers or information or any synonyms of those 2 words. And but so I don't, I'm not going to get too in the weeds there, but it was literally almost an hour, so we're not doing that. And here's how we're not doing that. In the last 2 episodes, we've developed what we call, it's a new sort of technology called the headline section. And what the headline section allows us to do is it facilitates a synergy of the individual energized, I don't know where I was going with that. We just read the headlines, essentially. So that makes it, and I'm trying to exert some discipline on myself. Sometimes it's so hard for me to stay to the headline, you know what I mean? I gotta just read like one thing. But we try to limit that. So we're going to zoom through zoom through the news of the day, starting with the Goodish news, okay? So let's just check out some Goodish news. I want you to know what's going on, but if you want more information on these subjects that we're about to talk about, quick tip, just kind of Google the headline and you will then find the article. You know what I mean? And then you can read more about it. And if you have trouble accessing it, go to archive.is, plug it in there, and so on. So Goodish news. Just immediately accidentally click away from the headline. Development banks to invest 3 billion euros in ocean plastics fight. That's good. You got to fight those ocean plastics. Glendale in Los Angeles ends divisive immigration customs enforcement detention contract amid California protests. Striking Hollywood video game actors reach tentative agreement with studios. Greek court strips 3 far-right lawmakers of parliamentary seats. So, again, we're just reading the headlines. I know, we'd love to go more into this, but we'd also love to just survey what's going on in the Goodish news world. Labor unions rise up against Republican President Donald Trump's immigration plans after Los Angeles raids. They arrested a prominent California union leader. He is not breaking any laws or in the country illegally, obviously. He was just standing near the people who were just following orders as they remove people from the community and traffic them to other countries. But he will have justice, David Huerta. So stay in the know about that. on another podcast where they go into detail about things. Britain sanctions Israeli far-right ministers over Gaza comments. Hundreds protest outside Immigration Customs Enforcement headquarters in New York City. Protesting is good. That's why it's on the Goodish news segment. It's not that I like that people have to do this, but it's good that they do when they have to. Billionaire Walmart heiress promotes nationwide anti-Republican President Donald Trump protests. Look, I'm a fan of a class trader, and I want to encourage rich people. There is always possibility of change and growth and renewal of your image. It's not too complicated. So just, again, these no kings. Obviously, there's a lot more need than just like one day of protest and so on. But hey, you're a billionaire heiress or heir, and you want to spend your money fighting autocracy. Hey, more power to you. If there's one, that's how money should be spent, or that's one way. Convoy arrives in Libya en route to Gaza to challenge Israel's aid blockade. I believe that this aid blockade, obviously, there's been so many efforts to try to get aid to the people of Palestine as it's been restricted and completely limited for months by Israel. They made a slight change in that recently, but people are starving to death and have been starving to death in Palestine. It's been a ghetto for literally like years, decades, and it's specifically people who were forced out of their homes in 1948 or since that have been forced to live in Gaza anyways. And then they can't even get enough food or water or medicine. So all this aid, people are trying to get in, whether it's Greta Thunberg, just in a more symbolic sense and in terms of bringing attention to. I'm allowed to go into the details on stuff as long as I'm not reading the articles, by the way. It's not that I'm not like encouraged to do it, but the headline section, I'm allowed to elaborate as long as I'm not reading. I'm allowed to just kind of like riff. Anyways, so these were a lot of people moving through. I'm actually not sure of the current status. I thought I read that they were facing some issues with Egypt, but we're not going to. Again, that would be stretching the integrity of the headline section to go too much into detail. But I just wanted to highlight people banding together to bring attention and hopefully bring actual material aid to the people of Palestine. So. Fulbright board resigns, citing interference by Republican President Donald Trump administration. I don't like, boards like this, like that oversee the Fulbright program, like being dissolved, because that seems like a pretty good program in general. Like, just get like talented, smart people, support them. But if you are having at a certain point, a huge amount of interference at a certain point, you do have to just say, this is not working and I don't want to play this game. So. Judge blocks Republican administration from enforcing anti-diversity and anti-transgender executive orders. Great news. By the way, if you're wondering why I keep adding the word Republican into these headlines, especially when it says Trump and I say Republican President Donald Trump, it's because I understand, people have a hard time. Sometimes they're like, oh, the Democrats are so bad. It's almost like they're the exact same as the Republicans. I hear you. It can be hard sometimes to tell different things apart. So I'm doing my due service to people, reminding you when something's Republican, when it's Democrat, because I think people got a little bit confused. Last few years, I get it. The Democrats are abysmal, but the Republicans are differently abysmal. Different things can be different. And so I like to remind people that this is not some like monster that has like inhabited the White House. Like, he's the Republican candidate. He's been the Republican leader of the Republican Party for a decade. So he's a Republican. This is the Republican Party doing everything he's doing. So I'm just trying to help people, remind them. I think people got a little bit confused in the last decade about, are Republicans and Democrats the exact same thing? No, they're actually different parties. They can have different things wrong with them. So I'm just doing my service there. Jury awards more than $500,000 to Guatemalan men who say they were exploited on Michigan farms. Fantastic. Warrant for immigration raid wrongly sought via judge shopping, Texas judge says. U.S. foreign policy is no basis to detain Colombia protester Mahmoud Khalil, judge rules. And if you saw, the United States has now shifted to a different justification, saying, okay, it's not about our foreign policy and that he's a threat to us because he's anti-Semitic, because we realize that there's actually no evidence at all of him ever being anti-Semitic, and that is like an absurd thing to detain someone for. So we're actually detaining him. Oh, do I have to go to the article? I'm forgetting. What is their stupid justification? We're actually detaining him because... What even is the justification? It's not that he's anti-Semitic. It's that, he lied on his visa, on his like green card application, because he didn't include certain, like, this thing that was actually a work study and we're saying was a job, and also it like wasn't even during the period or something. And also this is never something that people are detained for, apparently. So the government is running out of reasons to keep this man away from his wife and child and community. And it's been over 3 months now. And he has not committed a crime. He has not been charged with a crime. I'm just going to veer away from the headline. I've read like a few articles about him. They might not even actually have it in this article. Okay, good job, Reuters, not even mentioning that he hasn't been charged with a crime. Well, it was mentioned in another article that actually might be in the next section, this next segment. I'm sorry. U.S. Center for Disease Control restores jobs for 450 laid-off employees. Personally, I think that's one of the things that a government should have is a Center for Disease Control. I'm like super quirky like that. U.S. court blocks Consumer Financial Protection Bureau move to scrap racial discrimination segment. That's right. If you're having trouble understanding that, under the Republicans right now, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is trying to scrap its own settlement that it fought for in the past and say, actually, we were wrong in that case we put forward. And I'm going to make one exception to get away from the headline to read this. CFPB originally brought the case in 2020 during Republican President Donald Trump's first presidency, accusing this agency, accusing a company, Townstone Financial, of redlining, discouraging would-be black home buyers from applying for mortgages through derogatory and disparaging comments and promotional materials. So this judge cast doubt on the CFPB, now saying that it actually didn't have a case, because he's like, yeah, you did have a case, actually. He said, reversing a prior Consumer Financial Protection Bureau action in this way amounted to, quote, an act of legal harry-carry that would make a samurai blush. So a little bit creative language. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but, we're just reading what the judge said. At bottom, to grant the motion based on the arguments advanced by the parties would be to undermine the finality of judgments. That is a Pandora's box the court refuses to open. So judge apparently was having a metaphorical day. Pandora's box and so on. But I just, if you don't know what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is, I feel you. You know what I mean? Like, we don't always think about this stuff. But again, pretty good thing about the government. Good thing to be protecting consumers from financial institutions and financial instruments. So this is a judge saying, no, you can't scrap your own racial discrimination lawsuit you won. And Elon Musk and other folks, Elon Musk, the world's most hoarding wealth individual, obviously, and many other Republicans want to get rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau explicitly. Look up what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has done, how many billions of dollars it's saved people like you and me and real human beings from crimes that have been committed against us by banks. And so it saved a lot more money than it's cost. Is that fraud, graft, and waste for the government to say scrap our own settlement? Or no, that's just no problem. Okay. U.S. Supreme Court bolsters school disability protections. United Nations overwhelmingly demands immediate Gaza ceasefire over U.S. and Israel opposition. U.S. Appeals Court won't reconsider Republican President Donald Trump's $5 million loss to E. Jean Carroll, who is the woman that the president sexually abused and defamed. That's right, E. Jean Carroll, it has been proven in court, in case you're not aware, that Republican President Donald Trump sexually abused this person and then defamed. U.S. judge blocks Republican President Donald Trump's administration from overhauling federal elections. Are you aware of all this Goodish news, by the way, or is some of this a surprise to you? Let me know in the comments. U.S. judge blocks State Department's planned overhaul and mass layoffs. You know, I'm sure the State Department does a lot of things I do not like, but I'm also just like not a fan of cutting off a leg to save. I don't know. What am I trying to say? I'm not a fan of cutting off your leg just because you have like a skin irritation or something. That's got to be a better metaphor, but it's better than the Harry Carey one. Federal judge blocks Republican President Donald Trump's firing of Consumer Product Safety Commission members. Now, that's not the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's a different thing that's helping people like you and I. I like to think of myself as a consumer. That's sort of how I see myself. When you ask me, like, you know, what's the biggest part of your identity? Is it that you're an artist? Is it that you're a therapist? It's that I'm a consumer. You know what I mean? I consume. Watch. Peru reinstates full protection of Nazca Line's reserve after controversial cutback. So, really cool lines in the soil. Colombia reports 33% drop in deforestation in early 2025 with major progress in Amazon parks. Let's go. California's Yurok, I'm sorry for my pronunciation, Yurok tribe. Say Yurok? That's really dope. I'm sorry. I'm sure that's not you, but that is dope. Just as like a wrong way to pronounce it. Yurok tribe gets back ancestral lands that were taken over 120 years ago. So that's absolutely dope. And lastly, on the Goodish news segment, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, the people who are just following orders. Okay, they are just following orders. I wish people would just understand. They're just following orders. No one's ever done anything wrong when they were just following orders. I think. Might have to look that up. But ICE ordered to pause most raids on farms, hotels, and restaurants. Now, I look forward to these people trying to reintegrate into society when things get a bit more civilized. Maybe someone should become like an ICE deprogramming specialist. Maybe that's something I do, you know, have ICE agents onto the podcast and help deprogram them to being more humane and to viewing their fellow individual humans as respectable people worthy of respect and integrity. Because it must do a number on someone's mental health to be trafficking people out of their communities and homes. That must be really hard for people's mental health. So hopefully they have access to therapy at ICE. And if they don't, then they can come on my podcast and talk to me. So if you have any family members who are ICE agents and they want to kind of be deprogrammed a little bit, they can come on the pod and we'll talk about, you know, how they're trying to move on with their life and actually try to make amends for the horrible wrongdoing they've been a part of. So that was the Goodish news segment. You know, some good news, if not all good news, does make you think of the bad news. That is sort of a thing we haven't resolved yet, how to talk about good. Sorry, I'm not used to having this freaking thing, this whole, you know, it's so much bigger now. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So, you know, whatever. Okay. Goodish news makes you think of bad news. You know what I mean? The point I'd make every time. But we don't know how to get around that. So for now, we're just going to talk about good news when we can. Okay. So next up, we have the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment. So obviously, when I talk about Better Call Saul, when I talk about other stuff, I'm focused on the changeability of the human being. You know what I mean? The human becoming is what I like to say. It's probably not original. Thank you for I don't know. Thank you for sticking with us here. Okay, so the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment is where I continue to talk about news, but specifically framed in the understanding that everyone does make mistakes. Okay, so first up, we have ABC suspends, and this is part of the headlines section, so I will be trying to limit my veering away from the headlines. ABC suspends reporter who interviewed Republican President Donald Trump after devastating analysis of President and Stephen Miller. Okay. So just wanted to veer away once. I get a few times I'm allowed to. I just wanted to read what the statement was. You know, cancel culture is running wild here with the ABC people. Let's see. Stephen Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. It's not the brains, it's bile. That's so well put. So I just, ABC can't handle the heat, obviously, but, Timu Gobbles is kind of a pathetic little weasel. So I do think it's good to just kind of point out that it's not even like an intelligence thing. It's like when someone's willing to hate on such a deep level, they have a special use to an autocratic state. So your day will come, Stephen Miller. Your day will come. 2 veterans found with stolen military guns and Nazi material, officials say. Whoopsies. What's going on with these veterans? Everyone makes mistakes. Tesla hit with pair of downgrades amid fallout from Trump feud. A few downgrades from some big companies whose job is to say whether other companies' values are entirely made up or only partially. That's right, downgrades for Tesla. Everyone makes mistakes. Longtime Motel 6 spokesman Tom Baudet, or Bidet, I'm sorry, that's not funny. Baudet, sues the Motel 6 chain over using his name and voice. Have you considered that they just made a mistake? University of Michigan severs ties with security company after personnel followed students. We did not even realize this security company we hired was going to be surveilling our students. Let's get rid of that once people notice. Wildly unprepared, National Guard troops sleeping on floors in exclusive photos. Now, I just wanted to take a second to let you all know, because you probably know people who are in the National Guard, or frankly, you might be in the National Guard. Probably not, but there's a chance you are. It's not too late to quit. I just want to say that, it's not. And if you're in the Marines, you're allowed to leave. I think. I don't know if they shoot you if you say, "Hey, I quit." I don't really know the rules on that. But I just wanted to say, because I think people might kind of get it twisted. I was talking about working for companies like Microsoft, also, which we have something about Microsoft coming up. It's okay to give up and to quit. It's that sometimes that is what you have to do. If you're a National Guard person and you're saying, I didn't realize I was signing up to protect federal property and then to potentially actually oppress my own fellow country people. I thought I was going to maybe be doing stuff that I could justify to myself a little bit more. It's okay to stop. You know what I mean? It's okay the ethical decision is always to reduce the unethical decision. You know what I mean? It's never too late. Best time to plant a tree would have been, 10 years ago or whatever. Second best time is today. So best time to leave the Marines or the National Guard or anything. It's just, you might as well, because guess what? You're absolutely complicit. You're absolutely guilty. If you're in the National Guard, if you're going to LA, if you're staying in any service of the military at all, in the United States, or probably most countries, any country that's not being attacked, it's unethical and it's wrong, and you should quit. So just wanted to kind of do that. But hey, for the time being, sleep on the floors, because maybe your dad will love you if you do that. And hey, it's Father's Day, so whatever daddy wanted, I guess. I'm being rude. I mean, some of these guys probably want to do this without having issues with earning their father's respect. So it's possible that, it's truly something they've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to protect federal property. That's what they're dreaming about right now, is all the federal property they get to protect. But hey, everyone makes mistakes. Just following orders tactics draw criticism as it triples daily arrest targets. Maybe they're making mistakes. Airlines don't want you to know they sold your flight data to Department of Homeland Security. Whoopsies. You can look into that one. That's a Wired article, 404 Media. Looks like they're we don't talk about that word. Environmental Protection Agency drops legal case against a GEO group, a major Trump donor, over its misuse of harmful disinfectant in a Just Following Orders facility. So a complaint filed under the Biden administration alleged that on more than 1,000 occasions in 2022 and 2023, the GEO group, who current Just Following Orders head Tom Homan has financial ties to the GEO Group, Tom Homan, that they actually have been using a disinfectant which causes irreversible eye damage and skin burns. But the EPA said, we made a mistake, GEO Group and Tom Homan's employer/former employer. We made a mistake. That was actually totally fine that you were using that disinfectant. Please keep doing that at your facilities where you are just following orders while you traffic our friends and family. Elon Musk, world's most hoarding wealth individual, rebukes Grok, which is his artificial intelligence computer guy, for verifying fabricated expos. Now, Grok makes mistakes too, okay? So when someone posted that... When someone posted a screenshot where the world's most hoarding wealth individual appeared to reply to Weasel Miller saying, just like I took your wife, which, by the way, look into that because unfortunately there's a lot of truth to that in terms of her being in Elon Musk's presence more than Stephen Miller, seemingly, and leaving the White House to work for the world's most hoarding wealth individual, which, hey, I'm a fan of polyamory, open relationships. I think that's great, you know. Obviously, Elon Musk is just trying to start a family. You know what I mean? He wants to maybe have his first kid. I'm sorry, his 15th kid, you know, and maybe he's like just he's a family values guy. Stephen Miller, you know, they're kind of just like, they get along. They're like, yeah, you know, I like the Nazi salute thing. They kind of have stuff in common. So Katie's probably like, I feel at home with him, Steven. And Steven's like, I don't even know how to communicate. You know what I mean? I'm just going to go masturbate to like videos of immigrants being abused. And she's like, that kind of rubs me the wrong way. And he's like, Katie, I feel like you don't get me. You know what I mean? So this is kind of what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of people are saying. Anyways, Grok, and I don't know what Stephen Miller masturbates to. I should be clear about that. I have no inside information about that. I can only look from the outside and say it's a reasonable assumption. If he doesn't get erotic pleasure from what he's doing, at least it validates his sense of never being good enough, always being a pathetic loser, and so on. So I don't know. It probably isn't erotic. It's probably more of a just like a deep sort of like self-loathing that he takes out on the people around him. He's never been, you know, any of these people like who are white supremacists and so on. They've never truly felt what it's like to be loved and a part of a community, so they don't know what they're missing. And so they only know what it's like to have a feeling of power and to like others kind of responding to them was never something that became normal in their life, probably for complicated reasons. So they rely on people responding to their force, essentially, because they don't know how else to, get a reaction out of people. So anyways, Grok made a mistake. Totally happens. You know what I mean? Totally happens. Yeah, totally happens. I know. It totally happens. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Right. No, totally. And Grok was like, yeah, that looks real to me. Okay. Elon Musk, world's most hoarding wealth individual, says some of his posts about Donald Trump went too far. Hey, we all do it. You know, we all do it. I think we've all done stuff like that. You know, we get pissed off. We talk about people's ties to famous human trafficking pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. You know, it happens. But I think Trump's only been on Epstein. Trump was only like affiliated with Epstein in like a dozen different ways. It's not that big of a deal. Ex-CIA analyst sentenced to over 3 years for leak of classified information. That's what we call a mistake. Disney and Universal sue AI firm Midjourney over copyright infringement. Have you considered that it was a mistake? This segment gets really old. Head of controversial Gaza Humanitarian Foundation refuses to reveal who funds it. That's right. This one organization that Israel says is allowed to bring needed materials like food and water and medicine to the people of Palestine is very shady, and it's extremely sus and super unethical. And Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people. And we're watching it. But because it doesn't involve gas chambers, we have a hard time identifying it as a genocide. FAA says probe closed into SpaceX Starship Flight 8. So, they're like, yeah, no, give them another shot. It probably won't explode a third time. Just following orders, detainees tear down a wall in an uprising at a New Jersey detention facility. You might have seen this. And this was actually the facility that the United States has tried to arrest actual congressional leaders for being present at, by the way. Felony assault charges against U.S. Representative LaMonica McIver, who was with Representative Baraka and others on a particular day. So she was indicted. We don't know what's going to happen. She, very likely, I'm sure they're bullshit charges. But hey, so apparently these human beings who have been detained very likely without doing anything wrong, based on all the other cases I've seen, they knocked over a wall. So maybe they made a mistake. Some French Tesla drivers file lawsuit over harm allegedly caused by Musk's behavior. I actually meant to read this. But yeah, Tesla vehicles have become powerful political symbols and are now perceived as true far-right totems. They certainly are. Yeah, you should get rid of your Tesla, yes. If you have any ability to get rid of it, you should absolutely be getting rid of it, yes. For every reason. Shaquille O'Neal to pay $1.8 million to settle FTX investor lawsuit. So Shaq taking an L. It happens. You know what I mean? Can't win them all. He misled investors by promoting the now bankrupt crypto exchange FTX. What's he supposed to do? Not do all these commercials? Really, Shaq, I don't know, man. You seem like a cool guy. Why do you do all this stuff? We already looked at this. I don't know why I have a second article about it. Chief of Department John Chell used false identity in bid to avoid income tax. So this is the New York Police Department's highest-ranking uniformed official trying to not pay income tax. So, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? 2 men jailed for stealing $6 million golden toilet from Winston Churchill's birthplace. So someone had to take a dump, apparently. Trump's just following orders arrests. So ICE arrests non-criminals despite crime-focused message. So whoopsie daisy. Seems like their detentions of non-criminals have risen 800% under Republican President Donald Trump. 800% increase in detention, which is removing someone from their friends, family, and home, trafficking them out of their home, and removing them from their home when they have not committed a crime. Interesting. No criminal charges or convictions. So, yeah. But they're illegals. They're aliens. If you know anyone who uses those words, especially aliens, try to point out to them that there probably is not a more dehumanizing word, right? Like when you call someone an alien, you are saying they are not a human being. So, also illegals. They're illegal. Yeah, okay, you're an illegal too. If if you do anything wrong in your entire life, you're an illegal. McDonald's settles Byron Allen's $10 billion lawsuit over commitment to black-owned media. So this was interesting. I've read this article. This is a rich man apparently who owns a bunch of TV stations, and he's 90% of black-owned media or something. There was his media group represents more than 90% of black-owned media, and apparently, look at this. McDonald's in 2021 pledged to boost national ad spending with black-owned media to 5%. So McDonald's, this is obviously a systemic issue of so little media being black-owned, but also 2% of McDonald's advertising was with black-owned media. 2%. Talk about these complicated forms of systemic racism. It's wild. This is why you need proactive amends. Amends, but affirmative action, essentially. Actual action. Otherwise you have the, residue like this and South Africa and a million other places. Okay. Former Florida hedge fund manager charged with insider trading again. Whoops. You know what I mean? What can you do? We're done with Teams. German state hits uninstall on Microsoft. So never a bad time to say, actually, you support genocide, you terrible, evil company. Blocked by judge, companies aren't evil. They're just incentivized to do these things. They need to be, held in place and held accountable by a government. I don't consider companies evil. I don't really care about evilness. We talked about this, the U.S. shifting its rationale for detaining Mahmoud Khalil, and I was trying to show the quote earlier just to make it clear to everyone that... Nope. I'm actually looking for the word in the article I'm reading. Oh, okay. I thought the word charged was in the article. There we go. Accused. He has not been accused of a crime, Mahmoud Khalil. Just keep that in mind. Has not been accused of a crime. U.S. air traffic control still runs on Windows 95 and floppy disks. So that's not ideal. And lastly, on the Everyone Makes Mistakes segment, idiot tourists sit on and break delicate Van Gogh chair covered in crystals in Italian museum. Oh my God. That's pretty well established. Look, I'm not usually worried about art because I make art and I know it's so easy to make that, it doesn't matter. But there will almost never be things that you can sit on in museums. It's a lack of chairs is a problem. It seems like they're more worried about the crystals. I don't think Van Gogh would really care. The man just broke the chair. Could you imagine? Yeah, I mean, who cares? It's just, I couldn't care less. It's not clear if they were found. They're on the run. Oh, my Lord. Okay, well, hey, so what did we learn? What did we learn? We learned that everyone makes mistakes. That's right. That's what we learned and nothing else. Okay, so next up we have a totally new segment. This is really exciting. This is the comedy segment, okay? So this is where I will be attempting to be funny. We've gotten a lot of feedback that the podcast is not funny, and I would always say we're not trying to be funny. You know what I mean? This is a serious podcast where I journal my verbal, but a lot of people say it should be funny. So I thought about that. Got more coffee. I thought about that and I said, okay, I'll come up with a joke each week and I'll tell a joke on the pod. So I'll tell a joke. Okay, ready? I came up with this, okay? All right. Or my writing team here on the pod helped me come up with it. I didn't necessarily come up with this on my own, but why does Spider-Man... Okay. Why does... It's cracking me up already. Okay. Why does Spider-Man... I hope no one's told this joke before. Why does Spider-Man move more sort of like a monkey or almost? You know what I mean? I was thinking about it, and that's not how spiders move. Sure, they shoot webs, yeah, and once in a while they move how he does, but generally spiders kind of you know what I mean? So that would be really so the joke is essentially, what if Spider-Man moved more like that, or more like an actual spider rather than, essentially like a monkey with, the ability to, what am I trying to say? The joke is, what if Spider-Man, the joke is essentially about Spider-Man. So I got to test this joke out. It'd be if spiders don't move like that. It'd be funny if you moved like an actual spider. Yeah, no, that's the joke. That's the joke. It'd be funny if you moved like an actual spider. So let me know what you think about that. We should probably do the comedy segment after the Google Scholar segment, because I'm seeing what we're about to pull up for the Google Scholar segment, and it is going to dampen the mood after the laughs that we just had. So I'm just kind of doing a little bit of a interlude here as I prepare you for a much less funny thing, actually. Like, actually quite not funny at all. But I am passionate about legislation related to firearms. So I looked up for this Google Scholar segment. Sorry for the whiplash with how hilarious the previous segment was and how not funny this is. I personally think that every single politician should make it close to their first priority to limit mass shootings and firearm violence, because I think that it would lead to broad positive outcomes, even if you weren't, like, obviously it's a very difficult goal to achieve, to reduce mass shootings, to reduce firearm use in general and violence. But if you try, I think that every step along the way will be a good step. And I fundamentally cannot accept people thinking they have the right to own firearms. I know from a left-wing standpoint, I know, like, I can accept, like, workers needing to protect themselves from the state that oppresses them. I still think it shouldn't be legal. I think it should have to be underground. I do not think everyone should be allowed to walk into a store and buy a gun. I think it's, all these shootings happen, these mass shootings, and just from a mental health professional standpoint, y'all, these will only get worse and worse. Like, there's a reason that, like, there's a reason that, like, people, like, men are more likely to kill themselves than women, even though women attempt suicide more frequently, according to the research I've seen most recently. I hope I'm not wrong about that. And that's because men are more likely to attempt to kill themselves with a gun. And so it's just this principle that, like, people should not have the tools to kill themselves and others so easily. It's just like, I don't care about hunting. I don't care about your sports. I don't give a fuck. So, yeah. Frankly, this philosophy I have applies to other things, obviously. I think speed limits should be lower. I think we should be reducing the amount of preventable death that we can reduce for, like, cars killing people. So, like, I actually think that it would be good to lower the speed limits. I think it can't be 5 miles per hour, but I think you can find a balance where you actually put a real emphasis on safety. Same thing with firearms. I just don't think it makes sense to have the laws be such that people can get immediate or extremely easy access to deadly weapons. It is an absolutely horrible thing to have be normalized. I don't, let me be clear also, I don't think the government should have guns either. I don't think the police should have guns. I do not think anyone should have guns. I can accept a world where, like, there's some agency that has, like, extreme accountability that we allow to have guns, but, like, I don't know. I believe that we should be doing. Now, what does this mean? Is this gun buyback programs mixed with, like, strict laws? I think it should be illegal to own a gun. I think it should be illegal. I think it should definitely not be allowed for people to own a gun. Now, again, I still think if you think it's in your best interest to own a gun, I'm not going to pretend I can speak in every case. I understand that some people might actually need to own a gun. What I'm saying is I still think it should be illegal. I think it should have to be off the grid. I have a video about gun addiction on my main channel. It's my second video, actually. Anyways, this Google Scholar segment, I just wanted to show you this article that found that they looked at excess mortality, specifically among children, because firearms are the leading cause of death of U.S. children and adolescents. Firearms are the leading cause of death of U.S. children and adolescents. In 2010, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled McDonald versus Chicago. What is that? That was established the Second Amendment's right to keep and bear arms for self-defense applies to state and local governments, not just the federal government. It was achieved by incorporating the Second Amendment through the 14th Amendment's due process clause. The case centered around the challenges to Chicago's handgun bans, arguing they violated the Second Amendment. So, the conclusion is that states in the most permissive and permissive firearm law categories experienced greater pediatric firearm mortality. So more children died since 2010 in states that were more permissive with firearms legislation. Yeah. So you can read this article for more information. I always recommend going to Sci-Hub if you're having trouble getting the full text. Not every article is available on Sci-Hub, but I wanted to just kind of touch on it. We could obviously go into a lot more detail, but we have other things to talk about. And that's the Google Scholar segment. We don't always have it, so if you hated it, you know what I mean, don't worry about it. Also, I should say, yeah, subscribe or join the Patreon or the YouTube membership of the What's Therapy channel if you want to get these private episodes that I do every second and third week on the off weeks from the public episodes. So if you're really enjoying this and you're like, whoa, he's so funny, that comedy segment was hilarious, you know what I mean? Sticks to the headlines. Wait till you see the audiovisual segment we're about to do soon. If you're enjoying this, feel free to throw me a few bucks on Patreon, YouTube memberships. It definitely helps, and I appreciate it. But no pressure. And if you are supporting me, you can stop at any time. But yeah, thanks. And I have a lot of fun doing this, so I appreciate that people, sometimes enjoy it. So let's get on to the image segment. So the image segment is where we look at an image. And today's image, I should probably zoom out so we can see the whole image before I pull it up. Today's image is this. Okay, this is the image. It's a beautiful image. I just thought, that's image segment worthy. I believe that's a Dali drawing. No, is that not Gala Dali? Looks like his wife, but I could be wrong. This is a surrealist art collector's collection, and specifically, this is Carpados, the collection. Apparently, it's going on sale on the auction block this September, so get out your checkbooks once you're done subscribing to my Patreon so you can buy some overpriced art. But I just thought the image was very beautiful. I wanted to show you the image so you could kind of bask in it. The whole idea of image segments is just appreciating an image, not having to think too much, just looking at an image. So that's the whole point of the image segment. We like to look at images, and this is an image. So just wanted to kind of show you an image, okay? Sue me, All right, so we are making good time here. I hope you're having a ball for this. So we are now about to have the audiovisual segment, okay? And this is a big deal. It used to be called the video segment. I realized there's actually a lot of audio that's part of it, so I now call it the audiovisual segment. Don't really like the name, honestly. I kind of like the video segment name. But I'm also thinking of changing the name because, again, we are here to watch Dave Rubin's side project, the Actual Friends podcast, which I do not recommend, but it is funny. I find it very funny, and I like looking at it and analyzing it. I've been watching a bunch of books about a bunch of videos about BookTube. I find very fun and interesting. Anyways, so that, but I wouldn't recommend watching this, but I'm going to show you all the highlights here because today, we need to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. And Dave is just a light guy, he's just a light guy. Russell obviously going through some stuff legally with charges of rape and associated charges, I believe, from multiple accusers. So Russell's going through it, and he's relying on his buddy Dave. I'm not sure how close they are, frankly, and we'll maybe touch on that a little bit. But so, anyways, maybe I should call this segment the actual commentary segment because I'm always commenting on Actual Friends the last few episodes. But I am here. Well, one thing different, actually. This is different. Is that I actually have notes. So we're not just going to be... I actually watched it first. So I have notes and I actually watched it. I've never done that before, I don't believe. I've never watched... usually I'm just jumping in and I'm shocked at how I find something funny, even though I just like jumped in. But we have had times where I jump in randomly to videos and don't really find anything super funny, and then it's a little awkward, and I'm like, people are paying me sometimes for these podcasts, so I should like maybe do a little bit of prep. So I actually watched the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing. I was like cleaning my apartment, and I took notes on all the funny moments. So let's just kind of enjoy this. Okay, sit back, have some coffee or whatever, whatever he's drinking, and So normally they have like 4 people on the podcast. I guess that's worth mentioning. No, I don't want to watch the shorts. I'm pretty sure this is Dave's thing because he does always seem to be like kind of like holding it down. So it's a lot of people who are like why I left the left sort of types. I don't really know, all their deal, but they're very fun vibes. They had Roseanne Barr. She's an absolute dynamo. We've talked about how she's a total dynamo, Roseanne Barr. Total dynamo. With a lot of insight. Anyways, this is a funny episode because it's only Russell and Dave. So Dave sort of quips right out of the gate.
Maybe we should call the show We're Running Out of Friends today.
And Russell gives a very non-forced laugh. It was actually funny. I noticed that Dave got a good laugh there, so he actually used it as the thumbnail, is Russell laughing. I believe that's the first laugh. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a different laugh. Anyways, so it's very funny joke. Actually, it closes with like, no, seriously, like we need to, like, can you please invite? And Russell starts texting. Dave's like, no, seriously. Dave asked him multiple times, like, can you seriously please invite some people to join the podcast? Anyways, so what do we have here? Okay, first point here. Oh my God, yeah. So in the first episode of this podcast, Russell got this person, Jillian, I believe her name, I actually don't, he got her name name wrong in this episode. Her name's Jillian Michaels, okay? And she's slightly well-known for something. I don't really know exactly what it is. In the first episode, Russell assumed she was straight and she's gay, so that was awkward on the podcast where they're supposed to have some sort of personal relationship. And then in this, he calls her the wrong name. But they actually acknowledge the fact that he got her sexuality wrong and now is getting her name wrong.
That's right. Wasn't she? She was in X-Files. I don't know that we've done. Maybe you're doing a side gig with her. That's.
Oh, because he said the wrong.
Even I, don't you feel that too, Dave?
No, thank God we've finally got those people off our back. But Russell, I hate to do this for you as the usual anchor of the show. I have to make a quick correction. You called her Jillian Anderson, not Jillian Michaels. Jillian Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, was the woman from X-Files, right? Wasn't she? She was in X-Files. I don't know that we've done. Maybe you're doing a side gig.
Dave's so funny, honestly. Like, he really... Like, there's a reason I watch him. Like, I find him, like, funny in, like, a clown way, which is really great. We need more people like that. So Russell, to try to like salvage that he does have some personal relationship with Jillian Michaels, he says he follows her on social media and he likes her anti-vax stuff. That's all he really cares about.
Last week, I dishonored her by saying that she was married to a man. Now I can't get her last name right. I mean... Yeah, you're right. It's Jillian Michaels. I follow her on X. I'm interested in her career, her great work in particular around vaccines.
No, listen. It's always a pleasure to
Russell's like, hey, she's a personal friend. She's anti-vax, and that's all I care about because I work for like Rumble and these companies that like I don't know, like want to confuse the population. I just thought this was interesting. Dave mentions his kids, which it's really rare for him to mention his kids, because he's a gay man with kids, which bothers some of his conservative audience because they're homophobic. And so it's cool of him to mention his kids.
Well, you can see I'm back home finally. We've been traveling a lot, and it's really nice to be home and see the kids again and try to get to something normal. And
good for you, Dave. I'm sure your kids will get older, though, and you will have to start explaining to them some of the things you did, commentary-wise. Just something to kind of look out for. Russell is talking about interviewing like these fighters for some event. You know, he's got to take whatever work he can get. Obviously, it's not like things are coming in super frequently for him. And he just refers to the fighters in a very interesting way.
As yesterday, mate, they're welterweight MMA fighters, so beautiful and sort of potent. These fellas. I was in the.
Just like I want to see Dave's face.
Beautiful and sort of potent. These fellas. I was in.
Just when he calls them beautiful and potent. Okay, we're getting to it. I'm just showing you. I know some of these are these really important? But I just want to give you the. Now we're getting to the point where Russell makes a very strange homophobic, what certainly seems homophobic to me, comment to Dave. Really weird. So they're talking about how Dave has like chickens, essentially, or used to have chickens. And Dave's like reminding Russell of him having chickens. I think part of the awkwardness we're about to see is related to Russell being insecure about potentially having forgotten that Dave had chickens. Like, I think there's this background thing of like Russell's being made to like kind of show that he doesn't really know Dave that well, essentially. But anyway, so I think that's like in the background influencing him to try to be funny and the way he does, which to me certainly comes off strange. So let's just kind of check this out.
Said like I've ruined hedonism and decadence. They said like, with the alcohol and drugs. I was like,
Yeah.
you're doing this. No one else do it.
Yeah, sir, no more pudding for you. I ate all the pudding.
Oh yeah, that moment was very confusing and made no sense. So you didn't miss anything.
Before you knew me, did you know that David and I once had backyard chickens in L.A.?
Yes, I do remember the discussion of backyard chickens.
Now, maybe Russell's being honest. He remembers it. But look at this comment he makes.
Talked about it. I feel like the subject of coyotes has come up and whether or not backyard chickens could be a good euphemism for the nature of your marriage.
Well, in LA.
Okay,
yeah.
so I mean, I guess the joke is chickens are called cocks, and then him and his husband have penises. I'm actually not 100% sure, but if I don't know, if I'm friends with someone who's gay, I'm personally I don't know. I guess I'm heterosexual. I don't really think about it, but yeah, I'm like pretty much attracted to women usually. If I'm friends with which I am friends with gay people, if I'm talking to my gay friend, I'm not gonna like go out of my way to like talk about their relationship and make a joke out of it because I'm straight. So I don't know exactly what the joke is here. But it does seem strange to like make a joke about Dave's marriage, which in case you think that's really small, because, I get it. It's small. I just found it strange. There's this follow-up comment. And I'm like, what the heck's going on here?
There was a fourth name that was a banger. What the hell?
He's thinking of the names of his chickens, and they were all puns. And so he's telling Russell these puns of his chickens' names. His old chickens.
What was it? It'll hit me later. We had a fourth name that we were going to... Kim Kardashian.
That's very good. These are great puns because sometimes, Dave, I think that you wear your homosexuality quite lightly. But when you listed your gay-ass chicken names, it's like, that is a pair of gay men that named them hens.
Okay. So Russell definitely does not have a problem with Dave being gay. Don't look into his interviews with Candace Owens and the things that, he implicitly condones with her. Don't look into like any of his other comments. He's totally cool with Dave being gay. This is not a relationship of convenience for two people who have very limited media opportunities. It's not that Russell's using Dave to rehabilitate his image in any minor way, and Dave's using Russell for his star power. It's not that. It's that they're really good friends. Russell's totally not uncomfortable with Dave being a gay man, and that's why he's mentioned it twice in 8 minutes, made jokes about it, and I don't really know how gay people do puns differently than straight people because I only make amazing puns. So I can only focus on the quality of puns rather than the sexuality of puns. But yeah, Russell's super not uncomfortable with Dave being gay. Okay, substantially for this, so they talk about like actual issues in the ways that they can. The kind of substantial takeaway in terms of like actual media analysis here is that their entire analysis centers on bad faith interpretations, and that is common in a lot of people's political views and perspectives. When I say bad faith, I mean assuming that others are not necessarily genuine, assuming that others like Greta Thunberg are doing things not out of an actual necessarily volition, but out of being controlled in some way. And they struggle with this because they realize on some level, Russell and Dave, that it's not right to assume bad faith. It's not right to come at things in bad faith and assume a lack of actual like intention on people's part. They know that, so they struggle with it throughout the episode, but they don't struggle successfully. They start here saying they're trying to come at these issues in good faith. But look at what they say right before. I think I might have wrote Dave, but it was Russell talking.
Great her interest, understandably, I suppose, to the issue of the Middle East.
They're talking about Greta Thunberg and like, oh my God, why does she care about Palestine? I thought she only cared about climate change. Are these issues somehow related in her mind? Like treatment of oppressed groups and how we treat the planet and who's in power to make these decisions? Are these things in somewhat related? Are they somehow related to like our political economic system or something? Anyway, so they're struggling with that essentially.
Is curious. I wonder sometimes if Greta Thunberg is managed and handled by, I would just say sort of who's in the background of the Greta Thunberg's iconography and ideology.
And I do believe Russell wonders that because he is obviously paid for all of his opinions. He's so supported by Rumble, which I believe is owned by or partially owned by Cantor Fitzgerald, who's a commerce secretary's company. Like Russell is absolutely influenced by powerful figures that pay him to say what he says. So it is reasonable that he assumes other people are. And I'm not trying to be bad faith. Like I guess, okay, that's fair. Like a fair criticism. Like, how do I know that? I guess for me, it's like the just like clear change in Russell's perspective over time, the lack of substantiation and the fact that he relies on his sort of comedian persona to hide any like actual analysis that he might actually have to do on these issues he talks about. But I guess it's a fair question. Like, how do I know that I don't, for me, definitely like, I don't need to assume that Russell's being paid to say what he says. Like that doesn't matter at all. So I wouldn't like press that issue. It doesn't really matter at all. But yeah, let's watch what he says right after he says that, or he suggests that Greta Thunberg is supported by handlers.
You know me, Dave. I try to approach these ideas and subjects in good faith.
So that's right after he suggests she has handlers.
Someone once said to me, when it comes to the subject of belief versus atheism, there are perfectly brilliant people on each side.
So yeah, he seems to like have a problem with her being atheist. I don't even know if I don't know what her beliefs are. But yeah, I should say, yeah, I don't think Russell Brand has handlers. I think that he's doing what he's doing for self-interested reasons, and he doesn't like. I don't even know whether he knows he's like totally full of shit or wrong on the issues he talks about. Like it doesn't particularly matter to me. He doesn't care about being truthful, in my opinion. He doesn't care sufficiently based on the output that he puts out there. Okay, I don't know if this is another homophobic comment or if this is an anti-Semitic comment. I'm kind of confused. Obviously, I said Brand is chummy with Candace Owens, like famous anti-Semite who tries to mask it with anti-Zionism. It's like no one's buying it, Candace. But anyways, what's this comment about?
You know, you only need to look at someone like Ricky Gervais, who's not a believer, to know that there are articulate, funny, good faith people when it comes to atheism. And I've been trying, you know, I'm respectful to you and your position and your racial and religious identity.
He's talking about Dave being Jewish, right? I mean, I don't know what the hell else he could be talking about. He's trying to be respectful to Dave being Jewish. Good. Thanks, Russell.
And I think that I wonder how we can discuss the subject of Palestine and a figure like Greta Thunberg without getting mired.
Oh, Dave Rubin is a Zionist. He's been meeting with Netanyahu. He is clearly in the pocket of the Israeli regime, in my opinion. And so Russell Brand might just not know the difference between Zionism and Judaism. I saw him make super anti-Semitic comment on his show recently. It was clipped on the Majority Report or something. It was he has one Jewish staff member and he was tokenizing him publicly and being super weird. By the way, Jewish guy who works for Russell Brand, have some dignity, buddy. You're making us look bad. Don't let him tokenize you in that way. Anyway, so Russell might not really understand Zionism and Judaism being separate, or he doesn't care. But Dave Rubin is a Zionist and a Jewish person, so that might make it hard for Russell to really tease apart. But he's trying to be respectful of Dave being Jewish. So anyways, so let's move on. They were talking about climate change for a while. And Dave criticizes AOC for past comments she made that I just wanted to kind of fact check a little bit. I looked into it, so okay.
That put more coal and CO2 and all this stuff out into the world, and who are we to say that they shouldn't? So there's all these inequities. It used to be in the 1970s, cover of Time magazine, we're going through global cooling. AOC 12 years ago, or 6 years ago, saying we have 12 years to live.
AOC, so all the hysteria. He's pointing out all the hysteria. So AOC, it's true. She said something just like that. We only have 12 years. She was basically talking about people giving her certain types of criticism. And she's like, are you really going to do that? Are you going to nitpick X, Y, and Z when we have 12 years or the world is going to end? You could see that as, if you take it literally, you could see that as harmful. But you could also look at it as, it's not even like we have more than 12 years. It's actually that we have essentially 0 years. While there are only 12 years left until 2030 when the IPCC report came out, the reality is we have a diverse array of choices before us in terms of how to make emissions cuts. The comments were about the framing of a rigid 12-year timetable in general, not specifically. Okay. Oh, yeah, this is scientists responding to a rigid. Yeah, scientists are saying, obviously, 12 years isn't a deadline. Climate change isn't a cliff we fall off of. But this climate scientist at NASA said we don't have 12 years. We have no time. It's already here. The world isn't going to end in exactly 12 years. Yes, of course. Of course. But if you're looking at it in a more realistic way, some people actually feel like the 12 years is useful to get urgency out there, but it's hard to say, how do you communicate urgency adequately? But actually, yeah, it's not about 12 years, 5 years, or an apocalypse, but we are on the wrong track, Dave. So
I think we should just kind of put all that stuff aside for a moment, that most of us agree on the broad, we would like the earth to be nice.
We just don't necessarily want to limit what companies do. So you can only have one first priority, Dave. So listen to this comment about concern for Palestine and concern for climate change.
She's just trying to attach herself to another hysteria. And I would say it's an equally flawed hysteria. It's interesting.
Concern for Palestine and concern for climate change are equally flawed hysterias to Dave's mind. Dave, your kids are going to grow up. Your kids are going to grow up, buddy. They're going to see this stuff. Just a little bit of heads up, a little foresight tip there. Dave makes a nice lighthearted joke about human trafficking.
Due to the shift in political power in your country, our country, if indeed I am accepted as a resident.
You're here. Stop saying it. It's yours too.
I love this country.
Until Trump comes gets you.
Very funny joke, Dave. Very funny joke. Okay, here's an actual funny thing. You're watching this. You're like, this is not that funny. Why is he showing me every single detail? He should have gone through these before and decided which he didn't need to show. You're thinking stuff like that. Here's a funny clip.
rights for people. That's it. And once you start saying these people get these special privileges and all of that, then this is exactly what you will end up with. And then you have this layer of hypocrisy.
They're talking about trans people in sports, and yeah, I'll just say that for now.
Which, by the way, then creates racists, right? If you say, okay, someone's going to Harvard, so
I know they're talking about race, but it was starting with a conversation about trans people in sports.
an Asian kid's going to have to get a higher score. Well, congratulations. You want to make Asian people racist? That's how you're going to do it.
I just love that. I'm gonna show that one more time. The way he ends after you want to make Asian people racist. That's how you're gonna do it, Dave. Asian people can be racist too. Like everyone can be racist. Just kind of something to consider. It's not like we are worried about oh my God, if Asian people become racist, we're screwed. Like anyone can be racist.
If you say, okay, someone's going to Harvard, so an Asian kid's going to have to get a higher score. Well, congratulations. You want to make Asian people racist? That's how you're going to do it.
Dave's facial expression. He's like, mic drop. I just ate. Like, okay. Okay, so Russell Brand brings up world's most hoarding wealth individual, Elon Musk, saying that, actually I don't even know if he's hoarded the most wealth. He might not even be the richest guy anymore. But anyways, Russell brings up his little mistake where he said that the Republican president might have been involved with Jeffrey Epstein and so on, or definitely was, or whatever it was. Russell brings it up and Dave downplays the possible association.
Back with Riley Gaines. Can Elon Musk walk back? The reason that the Epstein files have not been released is because Donald Trump is in them. Is there
Yeah. I don't think Dave would have brought this up if Russell
a
did.
way of apologizing that out of the online ether, Dave?
It seemed like that one was the one, there were a series of tweets. It seemed like the one implying that he was a child molester might be the one that would be tough to walk back. However, I think, yes, I think it can be walked back. First off, there's so many questions around the Epstein thing, but
So many questions. Yeah, what are you wondering, Dave?
just because Trump's name may or not, let's say Elon is right. Let's say somehow Elon got access to it or there's some evidence that Trump's name on it. That doesn't mean Trump did anything. Part of like a honeypot is you have people that do the bad things.
Totally, Dave. And what do you assume?
Names. Your name is on a thing. That doesn't mean Trump did anything. And if I had to bet my life, my guess is that's what Trump's association with this is, meaning.
Yes, that's called a bias. It's okay to have that bias, but that's just a bias. Okay, this is a fun moment. In this moment, Russell calls Israel and the U.S. settler colonies, and Dave does not react or respond at all, which I found really interesting.
Divided categories, then you're going to have to stay true to that. If you're going to have a Middle East that's been carved up by various imperialist interests over centuries, then you're going to have to recognize that comes with complexity. If you're going to have settler colonies, whether that's Israel or the United States, and colonial powers, whether that's the UK or Portugal,
So he calls the U.S. and Israel settler colonies. I just like if anyone else did that, Dave would make it a whole segment on his show about how it's not the case.
I think that the system is struggling to accommodate its own values because the deportation ultimately of Trump's America.
Dave's like, okay, good. He talked long enough that I could pretend I forgot about the settler colonies comment, and I don't have to get a call from my Israeli money guy.
Oh, God, you said so many things there. Can you imagine if a conversation that had even 1/10 of what you offered up there was ever on CNN? How
This is what Dave does. He just makes it about the conversation.
Different this all could be. And that's the media part that I'm still always focused on.
Yeah, you are still always focused on that, Dave.
Address some of the things you said, but
no,
you said probably 6 things that were
with someone that
he gets into it with some people online, but James has really been one of the.
Oh yeah, he brings up just like this like ridiculous pseudo intellectual and so on, talking about blah blah blah. Okay, great. So that was just really funny. I found it very interesting. Dave's a little bit cucked by Israel. Unfortunately, nothing wrong with being a cuck. That's a normal kink. A lot of people are cucks. Don't want to be cucked by Israel though, unfortunately. Or the United States, who he's also yeah. Okay, here we go. Dave defends this gentleman, Ronald DeSantis, and some Florida Republican legislation loosening rules regarding drivers hitting protesters that are in the street. Dave is super on board with that.
In car seats in the back, and you're just trying to get home, or you're going to the hospital, or it's an ambulance, or whatever. You're literally doing whatever the hell. You're going to Pilates, and a group of people illegally take over the streets, and they have Molotov cocktails and masks and everything else. What would you do? Well, in Florida, you're allowed to do what you got to do. Of course, the media, Newsweek, is already framing this that he's telling people to drive through protesters. That's not what he said. It's if you're illegally taking over the road. You don't just drive through a park and...
So if people are illegally taking over the road, Florida... oh, interesting. Actually, this article says DeSantis was talking to Dave Rubin. They call him a podcaster. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, the law toughens the state's criminal treatment of protest. It was passed after the George Floyd uprising. Florida, I wish they had a quote from the actual legislation. A close reading of the law shows that the governor left out some important context and social media users stretched the seeming protections. Yeah, so that's also really bad if he misrepresents the law, even if the law is not necessarily saying people can kill protesters. If he presents it as that, that's a huge problem. The 2021 law provides an affirmative legal defense for such drivers who are later served with civil lawsuits related to a riot-related incident. Law doesn't protect them from facing criminal charges. Okay, just protects them a little bit, not completely. And, you know... I'm sure Russell's read the legislation, obviously, because how else would he know to say...
That is an example of common sense governance. But
So I'm sure he's read the legislation, so he considers it common sense governance. Oh, this is a really interesting moment right here. Really interesting moment. Here, Russell Brand criticizes fossil fuel corporations to the extent his paychecks allow him to. And I'm assuming that based on his output. We don't know. I don't know his paychecks. But this is a really interesting moment because it's someone who's not really equipped to actually understand our political economy or our environmental issues and the relationship between fossil fuel companies and our environmental issues and our health. And he obviously puts on this act of I don't like big companies and so on. So let's listen to Russell. Listen to this attempt to criticize fossil fuel companies. It's fascinating, really.
Have
hold on. Okay.
Whose goals and targets I would of course agree with.
He's talking about like climate change activism and so on.
I do believe that fossil fuel companies and energy companies have favorable and cozy relationships with government and are probably undoubtedly irresponsible.
Oh, interesting. He's able to say undoubtedly irresponsible. Wow.
In the way that they conduct their business when it comes to respect and love.
Oh, are the fossil fuel companies a little bit deficient in respect and love, Russell? Is that right? This is what a non-material analysis gets you, folks.
For our planet, that they cut corners.
Do they cut corners? Is that right?
Denigrate and relegate. But I'm telling you, when they
denigrate and relegate. Okay, that's what the fossil fuel companies do.
When they started doing protests in the UK where they blocked off roads, and I saw in general...
Oh, I was just so annoyed by the protests that I forgot these extremely soft abilities I have to understand issues in our political economy. Fascinating. Oh, they're probably irresponsible. No, they're undoubtedly irresponsible. Okay, thinking about this for the first time, Russell. We're almost done here, obviously. It'd be weird if we weren't, because I'm clearly almost at the end of the video, and I'm going chronologically generally. Here, Dave says Trump is not an authoritarian because he's soft on gays and abortion and, quote, not a perfect Christian. So Dave sort of implies... Let's just watch it. Hold on.
Was this New York City business guy who didn't really care about the gay?
Yeah. So he's talking about Trump and he's saying like, oh, people shouldn't portray Trump as an authoritarian because one day there will actually be an authoritarian. And his evidence for Trump not being authoritarian is this.
But so they treat him that way. So then the next guy that comes after Trump could be much worse because he'll be like, look, Trump was this New York City business guy who didn't really care about the gays. And he actually doesn't really care about abortion. And that's.
Dave, by the way, I've been making this point several times recently because I don't think it's like understood, the overtone window shifts a little bit with gay marriage. So I don't think Dave gets this, but like there are many people in the United States who want to end gay marriage, Dave. And they're a part of your political party and they want to roll back Obergefell just like they rolled back, Roe v. Wade. They prove that they can take people's rights away and they want to do it again. So, just Dave, just something to be aware of. You know what I mean?
It's pretty obvious. And like a whole series of other things. He's certainly not like the perfect Christian or anything else.
It's just such an interesting comment that he's certainly not the perfect Christian. And that's part of why he's not an authoritarian. It's interesting. And then Dave's sort of implying like a perfect Christian. Yeah, it's just a strange comment to say he's not a perfect Christian when you're talking about why he's not an authoritarian. All right, we're almost done here. Dave loves cops. Dave loves cops. Listen to him talking about calling the cops in his local area to just kind of get a good friendship with them.
And then he'll bend over backwards to accommodate you. So that's why it's so dangerous what they've done. But it was such a perfect example talking to DeSantis yesterday, why I'm so proud to live here. Why even just in the
Dave lives in Florida, if you didn't know.
Last couple of days, I called. I've become friendly with him, but I called my local police chief here, and I said, hey, things are obviously getting a little bit weird. Could we get could you guys? Because I see the cops around here often, and they're doing a great job. I was like,
so Dave's just calling up the police to establish a friendship.
Just once or twice a day, could you just drive by? And they immediately put me on the rotation, and I tried to know all.
Dave he's tried to know all the cops.
Their names.
He's trying to learn all the cops' names. Dave loves cops.
And that gets to the local thing that you're always talking about. Like, get involved with your community. Because
get involved in your community by learning your local police officers' names. I do recommend learning your local police officers' names, frankly. And, but I would not recommend being friends with them. Dave says okay, then to finish up the good faith thing. So after really they tried to have good faith, let's see. Do they end up with good faith or how do they end up here?
All this stuff. They cannot think they are telling the truth at this point.
He's talking about like Rachel Maddow. So no, we ended up with bad faith, unfortunately.
Talked about the good intentions, or maybe if someone's heart is good or Greta's heart is good. I'm sort of past that. You cannot, Rachel. You make $20 million a year.
Again, he's talking about Rachel Maddow. And I'm sure he's not just jealous of how much she makes without having to take Tenet Media and Russian state money or Israeli state money, which Dave seems to be doing now. But who knows? Maybe he just has terrible politics. No need to assume that he has handlers. He could just be wrong. But he's like, I'm past even trying to assume good faith. And Russell's like, yeah, me too. I was just sort of saying that at the beginning because I feel like I have to. And I actually think assuming bad faith is sort of a way for people to not have to think harder about issues. It's so much easier if people like Rachel Maddow or Greta Thunberg or people Dave disagrees with don't actually mean it. That's so much easier for him. So, Because it's actually a real philosophical problem that, like how can reasonable people disagree? It's a very interesting philosophical problem. Reasonable people can disagree through a variety of different life experience, different access to information and so on, different reasoning capabilities or processes. I just thought the ending was also really awkward. So Dave's like, really, dude, please text a friend and so on.
I'm pretty sure
to invite them to the podcast.
But the police involved. So then the question is,
yeah,
and maybe
but yeah, it's just an awkward ending.
Maddow, it's not too late.
Russell jokes about having Rachel Maddow on the podcast.
Sincerely doubt that, my friend.
Dave's like, I can't even get Gillian Anderson or whoever you called her.
We find some other friends for next week.
Yeah.
Dave's like, seriously, I'm not joking, man. It's like, maybe you should talk about this off air. I don't know if they have much of an off air relationship though. Russell starts texting immediately.
I'm gonna start texting people.
I'm gonna start texting immediately. Yeah. Okay.
All right, start texting people. I'm gonna. I had a couple of friends at some point. Let's see what
Tommy
I come up with.
Robinson.
Yeah, that's a joke Russell makes twice. That he wants to invite the British anti-Islam campaigner and one of UK's most prominent far-right activists. Russell just jokes about having him on twice because it's such a joke, I'm sure.
Russell Brand.
So that was a weird cut. I don't feel like there weren't that many cuts. But they're trying to think of a funny way to end the podcast.
Robinson.
Russell Brand.
I'm already on it, Dave.
Super good chemistry. Super funny. Just too funny.
All right. Good to see you, my man.
Lots of love.
Okay. I would recommend ending the podcast. You could take the thing out of your ear after. I would recommend ending the podcast and then ending the call would be my tip on that front, to just kind of end the podcast together and then you can end the call. So did I go into enough detail on that? I'm sorry. I only spent 40 minutes going through a 48-minute episode, but that's part of the audiovisual segment. That's part of what we do here on the pod. So we like to go into depth. So, all right, this is going on too long. We're trying to cut down on the length here, but it's been tough, especially with audiovisual segment. All right, so now we have the follow-up. So this is where I follow up to the previous episode and make sure I clarify anything I got wrong or slightly wrong. This is important to make sure that no one can ever call me out because I'm always calling myself out. You know what I mean? It's a defense mechanism. So let's look at one first follow-up here, talking about Gerard Richter. I made a little bit of a flub. He's so good. He really is the best. He is the best. He's so good, and his ability to do the most insane abstraction. Okay? I pretty guarantee you that's hand-painted. Why? Why do you pretty guarantee that? You didn't look into it at all. Digital print on paper mounted between aluminum and perspex diasec. So I don't even know what that is. It was based on a scan of one of his and then paintings and then divided into two. I mean, he does amazing abstract work, but wow. That's so beautiful. I know, people say, oh, it just looks like whatever, my kid could do it. Like, that's really cool. That's really beautiful. Wir verwenden Cookies. Wir können diese zur Analyse unserer... We can, for our analysis, our Besucherdaten, search data... platzieren, unsere Website zu verbessern, to improve our website. Personalisierte, obviously personalisierte Inhalte anzuzeigen und ihnen ein großartiges Webseitenerlebnis zu bieten. Something about making the website easier to use or something. Für weitere Informationen zu den von uns verwendeten Cookies öffnen Sie die Einstellungen. I'm working on my German. I'm working on it. It's slow going, but I'm just wanting to practice a little bit. So anyways, I was wrong about that. What else was I wrong about? Okay, as I make amends here, all right? Well, we were talking about Greta Thunberg. Yeah, so I should have mentioned, I mentioned this earlier, but this is something Dave's posting, obviously, because he wants to not give credit to an individual for drawing attention to the state of Israel's blockade of medical aid and food and water to the Palestinian people. Dave is definitely in Israel's pocket based on his private meetings with Netanyahu very recently and so on. And he's shilling hatred of Greta because he's pathetic. But I should have also mentioned, that's the painting. I should have also mentioned, obviously, I should have mentioned Greta going to Palestine or attempting to when we were talking about that segment because Dave's...
his name will be forever forgotten when people stop making fun of it, frankly. But Greta is actually...
Anyways, I already just followed up. Yeah, the point was I didn't mention her going to Palestine, and I was talking about her and so on. Obviously, Israel kidnapped her in international waters where they do not have the right to do that, and they trafficked her. So, okay, and next up on the follow-ups segment, we have this.
I guess that would be
Why did I... What was that silence?
Have you forgiven yourself for those?
I guess that would be an interesting question if it was not in light of him being charged with rape.
We're talking about Russell, obviously.
Or accused of rape? Accused of rape, I guess.
No, it's charged. So, and then lastly on the follow-ups segment, we have one more thing here.
They wouldn't have arrested somebody for burning the New Testament.
So they're talking about a situation, I forget if it was in France or something, someone burned a Quran and then they were held accountable, and Dave says they wouldn't have arrested somebody for burning the New Testament. Okay, but just so you know, Dave, I wanted to let you know that people do sometimes actually do that. In fact, in Israel, this was like almost 20 years ago, I guess, that a deputy mayor burned a bunch of New Testaments after missionaries gave New Testaments. I'm not a fan of missionaries, but just so you know, Dave, like people do, Messianic Jews. That's what the guy was who was the Israeli embassy guy who was killed. He wasn't sort of a typical Jewish person. He was a Messianic Jew, which is basically a different, almost like a different religion because it's such a blend of Judaism and Christianity that it's quite different. Obviously, that guy was killed for being the person killed him. They didn't care if he was a Messianic Jew or a regular Jew. They cared that he worked for the Israeli embassy. I think. I don't know. I haven't read all the court details on that. That's certainly what it seemed like. Person yelling "Free Palestine," which you don't have to support that. It's just important to see it not as anti-Semitism when it's not targeting Jews. It's targeting Israel embassy staff. Anyways, Dave, people do sometimes burn New Testaments and get in trouble for it. So generally, it's not cool to burn holy books. And, you can stop pretending to, that Christians are so oppressed and so on for your paychecks, but whatever. Okay, let's get into the mailbag segment. We always save this for the end because so many people write into the podcast that it becomes hard to kind of handle all the mail. So I save it for the end. You can write into verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We actually didn't save it for the end last time. But this time we are. Oh, okay. So What About Jelly has written in again. Thank you, What About Jelly, and says positive review by ChatGPT. So let's see what this is about. This looks interesting. Let's see if I can pull this up here. I can't because I already closed the window where I would do that. But it says, Actually, can I? Yeah, I can pull this up. Hold on. So there. Okay. So this is apparently ChatGPT saying that totally tracks. What's therapy has that grounded patient intensity. He doesn't flinch from pain, but also doesn't coddle cruelty. You can feel that he means it when he defends people from self-blame. And yeah, people like Jordan Peterson, whatever else they offer, often frame human struggle as a personal moral failure. That's brutal when you're already on the edge. Wow. What about Jelly? That's really interesting. I would actually appreciate the context. If you want to let me know what the context is there. That would be interesting. Like, what did you ask? Were they referring to a video? They must have been. So anyways, I win, apparently. ChatGPT likes me, so I am loved. And that's good to know. Thank you for writing in, and y'all can write in verbaljournalpodcast@gmail.com. We will not be doing an improv segment because I have gone on long enough. Fantasy segment, I won my matchup last week. It was super close, but I did end up winning. This week, it's going to be really hard. I am down by like 23 points. I have 3 pitchers throwing today. My opponent has 2, I believe. So I need my pitchers to have a really good outing. I need some of my hitters to be on point. Come on, Mookie Betts. Come on, the other people on my team. So I'll let you know how the fantasy stuff goes next time. And thank you. I'm going to thank the patrons and the members. So y'all can join this group of esteemed people if you'd like. To listen to over 100 private episodes of this podcast and a bunch of video stuff. I should probably, advertise that more too, but, a lot of video stuff going back like 5 years I have on this Patreon and for YouTube members as well. So everything is available to both patrons and YouTube members, with almost no exceptions. If you're ever stumbling through like the real old stuff and you find something that's not available, you can shoot me a message. I'll make sure it is, but I've done a lot of work to make sure that stuff is available. So if you join as a member, if you join as a patron, it should be pretty clear where to find all the back catalog and obviously this podcast and everything else. I'll thank the members first. So these are members of the What's Therapy channel, the main channel. So thank you to the members, and you get access to everything if you want to be a member. Thank you, Little Mia, Ollie's Playbook, Matthew, Jasmine, Simply Snaps, Jifa, Hollow Moon, Pit Inhabitant, and 39% Weird. Over on Patreon, thank you to Raymond, Garrett, Afazo, Simply Snaps, Caffeine, Sandonica, Parker, Dakota, Neural Damage, Francis, Aiden, Noah, Burrow, Emil, Perpetually Jackson, A, Islac, Caleb, Miranda, Ruben, Ibnomad, MK, Matt, X, Noah, Anastasios, Linguist, King, Tom, Hugh, Redgrove, Elemancy, Platinum Sarge, Rabid Dog, Roman, Ian, Russ, Irene, MJ, Ryan, Madeline, Mr. Moxie, Brent, Molly, Ashley, Scott, Luca, Gunther, Thulusaurus Rex, Miles, and User. Thank you all for the amazing support. I'm not going to quit my day job anytime soon, but I do very much appreciate the help with living. So if you have some money to spare, feel free to throw it to the channel. Be on the lookout for all the cool stuff we got coming up. And thanks for being a part of this episode in Verbal Journal podcast history. It's episode 116. If I didn't say that at the beginning, I'm going to be so mad if I watch back and I didn't say that at the beginning. And my boss here is going to flip. Okay, well, bye.
This is a podcast or something.